So this template will tell you how big the base needs to be. So if I'm looking at it right here, scoot this guy out of the way, and it's fully opened, this right here is how big I need my base to be. So I'm just gonna give that a quick measure. You could measure it literally with a ruler, or you could just kind of measure it like this. So I'm just gonna measure, this is how big I need my base to be, right? This right there. So if I were to measure this with a ruler, it would be 2 inches if we're going from the point to the point, okay? So that's what we're going for a base. So in order to make the base, you're gonna see a lot of different ways to make it. I like to kind of go simple. My cord keeps making this whole thing shake. All right, I like to go simple and just start out with a ball. And with the ball, it kind of gives you, let me get my cord out of the way. There we go. If you start out with this little ball and you can press it out, it'll give you a base without making it with coils. If you make it out of coils, that's great, but you'll end up getting a crack in the middle sometimes, and I don't like that. Now, my ball itself is already the correct diameter, so I know this is too much clay. So I'm gonna go ahead and split some of it off. And I'm gonna roll it into a good symmetrical ball. Okay, so it'll probably be pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna start out in the center here, and I'm going to squish this with my thumb, and I'm gonna work outward. And I'm getting some cracking because my clay is a little bit on the dry side. All right, so let's see. It's about where I need it to be, right? So this is the correct diameter for the depth, or for the width of my little thing there. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of water to this because I don't like how dry it is already. All right, now I've got that ready to go. So this is an easy way to do it. I'm not gonna use the board because I have my Lazy Susan thing here, okay? But you guys use your boards. All right, so when I start with my coils, I like to roll them out first, or like squeeze them out, so then it's not as much work to roll them, okay? So I'm squeezing the coil out first, okay, into like a log, and then I roll it. Start in the middle and roll out. And my goal is for this coil to be an even consistency throughout the whole thing. So it's going to be even. So you can see it's about the same thickness throughout most of it, okay? The goal is for it to be very equal throughout. There we go. All right. So what I'm going to do with this, and you can go ahead and pre-make a whole bunch of them so that when you're making, you can just go for it. But I'm going to get started here by scoring the top, okay? And the reason that I'm scoring is because I'm changing directions. I'm going outward to upward instead. So my coil, I wanted it to be scored on there. And then I'm gonna score this area. I'm not gonna need this much of a coil, so I'm just putting a little bit on there. And some slip. Okay. And then I'm gonna press this in place as I go. So I'm gonna actually like push it down. I really want this to be strong and sturdy. I'm gonna cut it when I get to the place near the end. So I have my first coil. This one is huge compared to where we're going, but we're going out pretty fast, pretty quickly. So you can see where we're going, all right? All right. So the goal here is that we're gonna follow the template the whole way. So my template is gonna have to go up against this. It's gonna be very hard for you to see in this direction, but it's gonna go like this. And I'm gonna need to go out pretty quickly. But you don't wanna go out on your first coil because you wanna get a stable base before you really do anything directional, all right? So that means this next one, I'm gonna make my coil a little bit thinner. This next one I wanna go outward, right? Because my design is going out. I need this to go out, okay? Now you don't wanna do too much of a change at once. So I'm just gonna put this coil right on the outer edge of the previous coil. And then I cut it. I always cut it when I get to the next, I need to cut that a little bit thinner, a little bit shorter. I always cut it versus overlapping because I want to make sure that it's gonna be even at the top, okay? So now that I have two on here, I'm gonna go ahead and smooth them out. So you can use pretty much anything to smooth out. I need a little water on mine because mine is so thick. I mean, it's so dry. So I'm gonna use this nice little modeling tool that I have. You guys have popsicle sticks and you have a green modeling tool, right? You've got both of those. So I'm not having to slip and score all of these because I'm working pretty fast. I need to get something to get in there. And I'm working pretty fast, and I'm also smoothing them all the way out. So the smoothing out is what makes you not have to slip and score everything. Okay. So on the outside, I want to move this clay. I'm not moving a whole lot, but I'm coming from about the midpoint and going downward. I would not get in the habit of picking it up like I am, but I want you to see it, and you can't see it unless I had two cameras going, and I apparently can't get two cameras going with QuickTime. So sometimes when people are working with coils, they end up smushing so much of the clay from one coil to the other area that they're not getting any height at all, okay? So you wanna make sure that you're not actually moving all of the clay. You're just moving a little bit of the clay from that outer edge. All right, and I'm not smoothing super much right now. I'm just getting the stability and the structure made. We can make it really nice and neat and smooth later. All right, so this is two coils on top of my base. I have my pre-made coils, and I'm gonna get started rolling this a little bit faster. I do wanna make sure that I'm going in the correct direction, so I'm going outward, okay. Again, I am pushing it down in place, like push your coil in place. Don't just flop it on, but really actually make sure it is getting on there and setting it on place, okay? Now, where I've cut this, my next coil should not start or end here. I want it to start and end at a different location, okay? So I'll come over here instead, because that could potentially be a weak point, so you don't want all of your weak points to be in one area. So every 2 to 3 coils, I'm gonna smooth out. At this my pot starts to go straight up. As you can see, it starts going straight up versus continuing to go out. So when it starts going straight up, I'm gonna change the direction in which I'm laying these coils on, and I'm just gonna put them straight on top of each other versus going out, okay? All right, 2 coils on, and then I smooth. The reason that you only add like 2 at a time before you smooth is because they squish and they move a little bit while you're doing that, plus they'll dry out too much if you wait. Now, while you're smoothing, you also want to have the other hand that's not smoothing on the opposite side for support. So I've got my right hand is smoothing, but my left hand is inside, offering the stability. Okay, so as you can see, I'm starting to go, maybe you can't see because I'm so far off screen, but as you can see, I'm starting to go in now, right? And the cool thing about looking at it from above is you can say, hey, what's up over here? This little thing needs to go in a little bit, not quite symmetrical, and you can regularly check it. So don't just sit down and only look at it from one point of view. You need to regularly look from above and the side. All right, so now that I'm starting to go in, I really want to think about the direction in which I am smoothing out. Also, I want to make sure I'm not changing the shape when I'm smoothing. So be very, very careful of that. If you're trying to go in, think about how you're squishing these coils and be very careful. Make sure you've got another hand kind of helping you out, propping it up. And again, I'm not too worried about like how ugly it is on the outside right now. As you can see, it is not beautiful, right? I will fix that later. All right, as long as I don't let it dry out, I can fix all that. And as I get a little bit closer to going upward, I might also get a little bit thinner on my coils because I want them to start getting lighter in weight. I don't want this base to have to hold so much. So being a little bit lighter isn't going to hurt. All right, if you're working on this for a long time too, you might want to go ahead and get that damp paper towel and wrap the base while you're working so that you don't let it dry out before you get a chance to smooth it. Smooth together. Now this little guy here is going to help me shape it. So I'm going to go through and I'm bending it, right? I'm bending it with my fingers and my thumb, and I'm getting a curve, and I'm going through and I'm scraping it. I'm getting some of this crud off of there. That is those lumps, right? The lumps from where you kind of made it really, you know, just a little lumpy. Now, if it's starting to get a little lopsided on you, like mine's starting to tilt that way, I can wiggle it back to where it's straight, and then I can tap it, right? So that flattened out that base there a little bit. All right, I'm gonna use this card and try to get this shape. It's going upward and out. So just think about the direction you need your clay to go in, and you just kind of scrape it in that direction. If you have extra of these little gift cards at home, this is just, I'm using a gift card. If you have extra of those, you can cut them in half, and then you can make little teeny scrapers too. Or you can cut a rounded, like a kidney shape, or a crescent moon shape. I got a basic coil pot here. I still have some smoothing to do. After I've got all of that scraping done, I can go in and smooth all of those remnants of the clay boogies that popped up from the scraping and get those gone. Just careful, do not add too much water to these. If you add too much water, you will get vertical cracking. The weight from, well, the water will start breaking down the particles of the clay, and then the weight of the top of the coil pot will cause it to just smash. And then you will be very, very upset. All right, now make sure you have a lip. So this is my lip up here, right? I made it, kind of flattened it off, just like in my sketches. I went in, I flattened it when I scraped it. So I've got a nice lip at the top. And then make sure you have a foot. Now, if you weren't able to get your foot to work while you were building it with your template, you can go back in when you're done and you can add your foot. So you see where I have this indent here and it's not very smooth? I can take soft clay, like super soft clay, and I can squish in these places and smooth.